feudalism, democracy. Let me check them.
Damn you. I am for too long.
Cool. Flip it around. Nice.
See that flag?
Really, like these guys. Let me flip it around for you.
Oh, that's clever. Rice, yeah.
Oh, you know?
I don't know them. I know this lady.
From an alley, fresh off the protest, you know, where it's quiet. I can hear myself think and get some takeaways as it's fresh on my brain right now. One, in no particular order, Kenosha is not that big of a city. So this was the No King protest in Kenosha, and it was pretty massive. So if that's an indication to what the rest of the country is doing, I'm really excited to look at the news reports later on. I mean, it must be massive. This is probably a pretty good indication, I'm guessing, that all the major cities must have just they must be blowing up right now. If this little town of Kenosha had that many people and that much fervor, amazing. From what I saw, and I was in the thick of it, there were no problems, there was no violence, there was no blocking of traffic. Oh yeah, that's one thing that I I don't agree with. When protests, even the peaceful ones, when they start blocking traffic, because a lot of people that are being blocked in traffic, they're just everyday people who are struggling to make ends meet, who are on their way to work to try to make ends meet, and then they could be financially devastated for missing one day of work. So I never agreed with blocking traffic and stuff like that. So there was none of that here, which makes me all the more proud of my town in Kenosha to have that many people protesting with that much fervor, without any violence. If there was any, I'm not aware of it. There was no problem from the police. The police, I think they were actually doing their jobs as intended, so that's really nice to see. One moment, among my favorite moments, there was an instance where, well, you know, people are driving down the street. There's so much solidarity, like everyone is honking in support and solidarity, because we are on the right side of history, without question, and it's also the very popular side of history, or the very popular position that people are taking. It happens to be the correct side. But anyway, among the people honking in solidarity was the Kenosha police car. And when he did that, like, everybody just erupted in even louder roars than they were already engaged in. People loved seeing at least one member of law enforcement on the correct side. So that tells me that people are just, they're not anti-cop. I mean, I already knew that, but to experience that, it tells me that people are desperate for the whole police force, leadership and down, to be on our side, to do their jobs, to faithfully serve and protect, keep us safe, to work with the community. The communities desperately want to work with the police departments to solve true crime and prevent true crime, and to make it safer for everybody, because when obviously the police force and the public and the communities are all working together, it's just good for everybody. It keeps everybody safe, including law enforcement, including citizenry, including visitors from other places. It's just good for everybody. So that's something we desperately need, that we are so far away from right now. So that was a really cool, one of my favorite moments of everything that I saw today was that cop honking and solidarity, and then everybody just absolutely loving that. Oh, imagine if there was that kind of solidarity between the whole police force, all first responders, and the communities. Oh my God, criminals would not, like the real criminals, they would not stand a chance, man. They just wouldn't, and everybody would benefit for it. So I can't emphasize how cool I think that concept is, and how badly we need to get there, to a place like that. Some other things that really stuck out to me were the thoughtfulness that went into so many of the signs and placards. Oh my goodness. And I recorded as much of them as I could on video to give you like a broad scope of the crowd, the fervor, the energy, and also focusing on so that you would see like the individual signs that were made, because so many of them were so brilliant. And there was one group of people that had this amazing collection of big signs, and I was like, hey, you mind if I hold one of these up? And they're like, oh, go for it, we would love it. Cool, can I walk around with it? Yeah, great. And then I stood, I actually climbed up to the top of a structure in front of the post office there, so I was super visible with this huge sign with both my arms up in the air like this, sort of standing there. And that drew a lot of attention, which I was very happy about. And the sign was an anti-genocide sign, which I think was, of all the stuff going on in the world today, for me that's the most pressing, because genocide is the sin of all sins. It is the worst of the worst, and we're materially supporting it, and that is unacceptable. It's not, you can't negotiate with that. Speaking of not negotiating, another a message that is so important. It's for people who are still with Trump, or people that take positions that are on the wrong side. Like me and many others, we welcome disagreements. We want to be able to agree to disagree and to compromise and do all these things. But there are some matters that you do not compromise on. We are not going to compromise on. There's no negotiating with a fascist. If you look up any academic definition of a fascist, Trump checks all the boxes, man. So it's not an opinion when I say if you support Trump or the check boxes he checks off that classifies him as a fascist, it's not an opinion, it's not subjective. You are objectively not on the side of what this country is supposed to be about. Period. Full stop. And there's no compromising with you, there's no negotiating with you, there's no discussion. Well, I guess a discussion, but there's no compromise. Maybe a discussion to go as far as to tell you what your behavior actually is, and if you want to line up with your stated values of, oh, I love America, I'm a patriot. No, you're not a patriot if you support the erosion of due process and equality, because due process and the equality above all else, and democracy, erosion, due process, democracy, our Constitution, those are American ideals, and if you don't support those, you're not an American, except maybe on paper. But some of the examples where it's not okay to compromise on, someone's getting married in an alley, that's attractive. So some examples of stuff that we're not going to negotiate with particular individuals on is going to be, let's see, genocide, the erosion of due process, equality for everyone, including gays and trans, democracy, accepting election results. You know, these things, there's no compromise on that. If you are not on the correct side of those issues, there's no negotiating with you. You just immediately deem yourself as irrelevant. And to that I say, what are you doing here? There's other countries, I guess, you could go to where they don't believe in democracy, where they think genocide is maybe okay, or they think, oh, no due process because we have a king. You know, those kinds of things. There's no negotiating on those things. And if you believe in those things, there's no negotiating with you, and I don't know what you're doing here. But that's where we stand. There's plenty of things we can disagree on and have compromise, and we can even fight about and still be cool with each other. But man, you support the guy that supports genocide. He described his ethnic cleansing. He said the United States is going to own Gaza. We're going to own Gaza and force them out of their own land. That is an ethnic cleansing. And if you support that, you're a real piece of shit human being that I want nothing to do with. And there is no compromising with you if you really believe that is even 1% acceptable. All right, so those are my fresh off the protest thoughts. That was all very, I was not expecting to participate in that or that it would be big or anything like that, but it really was something quite special, and I'm glad I happened to just be there at the right place at the right time. And I'm glad I came across those people that let me hold up a really cool sign specifically about the genocide part of the equation. So that was really neat, and hopefully I did at least a little bit of something to bring more attention, awareness that might lead to some kind of change, because let's be honest, usually protests don't result in anything. But this was so huge, who knows, maybe, it can't hurt. Alright, bye for now. Please feel free to share this. It's quite a long video, I realize, but important stuff.